Dave and I met when we were kids. We've been married for 9 years. Jameson, our first son, was born in 2013. And then 2.5 years later, Casey was born in January of 2016. Casey was a really happy baby. We used to joke that he just knew he was the second baby. He was really nice to me and not terribly demanding. Just a happy-go-lucky little newborn. When Casey was 4 weeks old, he developed a slight temperature and was acting fussy, which was very out of his character. And it just didn't sit right with me. And we just decided he was so young, let's take him in and get him checked out.
So when I first met Casey, I arranged for him to be admitted to our pediatric unit, the short-stay pediatric unit that is only a year and a half old. Because he had a fever and he was so young, there was a whole battery of tests that needed to be done, but otherwise he was in good shape.
When we were first in emergency, Dr. Swartz introduced himself, and he's so down to earth that we felt immediately kind of at ease, and he took a real interest in Casey.
To me, it was quite obvious that he had something called RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus, which is just really a terrible cold, in essence. But when a baby that small gets a cold or a virus like that, they can deteriorate, which is why they stay in hospital.
By the next day, it was becoming obvious that his symptoms were progressing and that he was becoming increasingly congested.
I know from experience that children with RSV, usually they get worse until about day 3 of illness. So because of that, I decided to arrange for a transfer of his care. As the staff were preparing to move him, he began having extremely labored breathing.
And all of a sudden, I heard one of the nurses say, "Is that a real heart rate? Or is that a real reading on the screen?" And we all looked at him, and he was just white as a ghost.
I remember very clearly getting a phone call from the nurse telling me that Casey wasn't looking very good and that I needed to come right away. So I immediately left my clinic and I started walking down the hall in the hospital to see Casey and see what was going on. About halfway there, the alarm went off in the hospital, code blue, emergency, pediatric. I knew exactly who it was and what that meant, and I ran over there.
I remember being right beside the nurses as they quickly pulled Casey out of his car seat, put him back on the bed, and started CPR on him.
So the first time I became involved in Casey's situation was when the code blue was called, and I responded as part of the team to the code blue.
Right off the bat, it was alarming that it was such a small child.
When I walked into that room and I saw the team around, and my first look was at Casey, and he was white.
But he was limp, not responding, very labored in breathing, very shallow breaths, very pale and very clammy appearing. And right away, at first appearance, you knew this child was very, very, very sick.
Casey had a full cardiac arrest, so he'd stopped breathing and his heart stopped as well.
I think the two of us were just, didn't know what was going on. We were kind of in shock, and then as it progressed and it took longer and longer, and you hear no heart rate, it went from it's gonna be okay to he's really sick, but we're doing the best that we can, and we're gonna try and get through this.
You know, they've got an oxygen bag on him, and he's gone. Like that's the only way I can describe it. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, this is the last time I'm gonna see him, and I'm not even holding him. And you think he's dying, I'm not holding him. And his whole last day was just crying and being, poked and prodded, and he's my newborn, he should be here,
We just kind of sat there just crying out to God, like, please save him. He's too young, like, why is this happening? We're crying, and we had staff there comforting us. They were crying with us and just trying to help us through these moments.
So we were intermittently doing chest compressions, pumping his heart for him, giving him medications until we eventually got long-term return of circulation and heartbeat, and that took 45 or 50 minutes. It was a very long arrest, very long code to run, but it's what we had to do.
I remember praying that they wouldn't stop. They just wouldn't stop trying, and they didn't. They didn't give up on him. And he's here.
Once they were, I guess, able to get his heart going, they just whisked him away and got him to the next level of care as fast as they possibly could. There was never really any conversation in the first few days about him fully recovering or there being any chance of no brain damage.
We had to wait to see, what the CT scan would reveal. Will he ever be able to breathe on his own again? Will we need to make a decision to take him off of life support? This is what we were faced with, and this is what we were told, very frankly, is a likelihood.
Was it 4 to 5 days later, the doctor came up to us and very stoic and just said, no damage, no signs of the arrest. And he said, your baby defies all logic. In my experience, this doesn't happen. And you can't even describe the elation and the joy you have in those moments. You realize very quickly that not much else, if anything in life, matters other than your family. And that was put into perspective pretty quick.
I think it's very gratifying to know that not only myself, but our whole team played a hand in taking care of Casey, and knowing that he survived and he's doing well is really why we do our work.
The story of Casey is definitely going to be a story that is a story I will always remember. Being able to witness the team that was involved and how amazing they did and how well they worked together as a team, and it was truly amazing.
How do you thank people that save your child's life? How do you express that? Words fail us. So we have to choose to live in such a way and raise our sons in such a way that reflects how thankful we are for these moments we have that Casey was given a second chance. And we're just forever indebted because of those moments. And it's a couple of moments. It's 45 minutes to the staff there, and it's a lifetime to us.
Two years ago, we didn't have a dedicated pediatric unit.
A place where children could receive this sort of specialized, specific pediatric care. I want donors to know that the support they gave us in creating the short-stay pediatric unit was instrumental in helping save Casey's life that day and continues to help us every day.
It's really allowed us to ensure that we're providing the best pediatric care that we can, and has really brought together a stronger pediatric team to serve our community.
Casey is the picture of health now. He is happy and chunky and sweet, and he adores his older brother. He's giggly, he's happy. He could improve his sleeping. That would be something I would enjoy, if he would sleep a little bit better than he does, but he's got a few teeth to show for that lack of sleep, and he lights up our life. Yeah, he's our sunshine boy. Yeah.